It's recording.
It's recording. So we've been playing around with communication and how we communicate for a while at Box of Crayons, because as we've had this rapid growth over the last year or two, it's just got trickier and trickier to be a virtual company, because one of the things that we know, we thrive from the relationships that we build and we have within Box of Crayons. And a lot of us are virtual, so it means that we don't get to hang out with each other in person. It's the price we pay for being a virtual company. And so communication and finding opportunities to build relationships is important to us. We do the weekly update that I write with the input of Shannon and Yasamine and Sylvana. And we've made these town halls a quarterly thing as a way of kind of really being focused on giving you the big view of what's happening at the company, setting us up for the quarter ahead of us and kind of what's in the year ahead of us. And so this is a chance for me and Shannon, Yasamine and Sylvana to share with you what we've been thinking about, where we're going at Box of Crayons, or at least where we think we're going. What's the map we think we're holding in terms of where we think we're going, so that you have an opportunity to know what's going on and ask questions about what's going on as well. And in fact, the timing of this is perfect, because the four of us spent all of yesterday kind of knuckling down and trying to answer some of these tough questions about who are we as a company, where are we going, what choices are we making, because part of what I've learned as we've grown is you just need a whole lot more discipline and structure than when you're a smaller company. You know, when we were a smaller company, let's say 3 years ago, pretty much I could stick my finger up in the air and go, yeah, the wind's blowing like this today, I think I'm going to do this. So off I go and I would do that, and I'd be accountable to nobody because there really was nobody else to be accountable to. And now we look at who we are at Box of Crayons, and we need structure and we need direction and we need infrastructure to allow us to operate in a way that allows us all to thrive, to have some fun, to have impact, to scale, all of that sort of good stuff. So yesterday we spent a bunch of time as a leadership team thinking through strategy, like who are we and who do we serve as a company, and starting to think through what are the implications of naming that for what our priorities are for the next 15 months, kind of through to the end of 2019. And we think we've come up with 3 key priorities for us to work on, which means that we've said yes to a few things, and we've also said no to a number of other things that have been floating around the ether as well. So I'm going to actually ask Shannon to kind of pick up the story from what the last 6 months or so have been in terms of how our thinking started and how it's changed. So Shannon, take us back in time.
Sure, yeah, because it feels like the last town hall was, so we just got together and we were strategizing and we're thinking about who we serve, and we've made these decisions. So just, I thought it would be useful to talk about our thinking process so that it's not like, oh, now we're going to go do this, because it hasn't been a simple switch like that, so people can kind of see what's been going on that's informing this change. Not a huge change in direction, but I think like what's informing a new set of commitments. So the decision to crack open the programs and rethink the product offering came back in May, I think it was, from the realization that there was this perceived asymmetry between our aspiration basically to become more elegant and provoke more impact. So that means to work with fewer clients on bigger pieces of work, or have fewer clients with bigger engagements. And our current program offering, it seemed, lended itself too easily to a one-off. So that realization, mixed with some feedback from some really great clients of ours that we should rethink our positioning, started to lead us down this road. And as that decision to rethink the product offering began to morph and kind of grow appendages, Michael, you put it this way yesterday, we got so focused on the answer, what will this new product mix look like, that we sort of forgot the question, which is around why are we rethinking the product offering in the first place? And so we started kind of going away and together and with our teams as well, thinking about, what really makes for culture change? What's the best way to do that? Do the programs do that? What makes for real scalability, i.e. these big engagements? What might a more varied offering look like that's more attuned to the nuances of different needs for different levels in an organization, different amounts of money put toward those people in the organization for the training budget, all these kinds of things. And one thing kind of led to another. So Michael began this iterative process of imagining a new product mix and started sharing that for feedback. Peter and I began to sort of gently prod clients about what they're looking for in terms of scalable solutions for the whole organization. And we also looked around at the successes and the challenges that we're having with our current clients. So Microsoft's request for us to build a customized MOOC for them naturally fed into our own inclination and ability to build a commercial MOOC for Box of Crayons. Even though that had been something that was kind of taken off the table in May, right? but then all of a sudden this opportunity showed up that became a catalyst for getting that done sooner.
Just to be clear, in May, we said we are definitely not building a digital product. Absolutely no way. That is absolutely off the table.
Yeah. TELUS's difficulty getting remote and frontline people into live workshops in 2018 made us think about the tenability of delivering in-person workshops to 26,000 people starting in 2019. Loblaw, who has been a growing account and spent about $200,000 with us this year so far delivering live habit programs, is interested in a digital solution for their frontline, for their 18,000 store managers, for whom a live workshop is just not an option. So all this stuff starts coming up that doesn't make the interest in thinking through what the best version of our program mix could be, but made different kinds of solutions feel like more imminently needed. And then a couple of really exciting opportunities started to bubble up. And I should make clear that they don't suddenly arise out of nowhere. They came from the really hard work of like Peter working for almost a year, because you got to think about the cycle of, we've got Michael and some others at this front end being like, we need to start changing what we're doing. And then we've got the biz dev process, which takes a long time. So Peter and I have already been selling the current program as it exists. So all of a sudden we get these really exciting opportunities, which are Ford, who piloted the coaching habit, nice one, Evan, and has expressed serious interest in delivering the program enterprise-wide. So if we thought Microsoft was a machine the likes of which we'd never encountered, I bet Ford is going to be a whole other machine as well. Cargill wants a mix of live and digital programs for its sales organization. And Salesforce's talent management team piloted Habit. We beat out the competition there, and they'd like us to deliver that program globally. So back in May, when we were like, no to global delivery, no to thinking about translation, and no to online, we all of a sudden have Ford and Cargill and potentially Salesforce who have translation needs, and two of which have the need for program leaders on the ground outside of North America and the UK. And we've got, of course, this desire for an online program that's already in the works that we're making. So we're faced with this crossroads, which is, do we translate the current coaching habit program as it is, which is the thing that these clients have seen already and that Peter has been selling them for a year, and invest in that translation even as we're thinking about changing up the offering? Or do we abandon the desire, that sort of innovative impulse, at least for the short term, and build out the MOOC as the one new addition to the product mix, leaving us with the current program as the translated offering that we can sell to these huge companies? And we went with the latter. So, and
to be clear, we didn't, and I want to provide a transition here, but to Sylvana to talk about what our kind of our strategic thinking about it is, because one way you react to all this incoming data around requests for online staff and big companies showing up and knocking at our door is you scramble around and go, okay, just let's do it, because why wouldn't we? And honestly, that was my initial reaction. Like, yeah, just do it. Yes, whatever the question is, the answer is yes. But what was great is that the team, Shannon, Sylvana, Yasamine, basically went, why don't we not just say yes in a reactive way? Because there's a way that being overly reactive is exhausting and has a way of depleting us, not just in terms of our energy, but in terms of resources, because we don't really know what we're spending it on. And let's do a little bit of strategic rigor around thinking about who are we as a company and who do we seek to serve, so that the decision to act or not act doesn't come from just a response to the external stimulus. It comes from a foundation of, this is how we have chosen to show up in the world, which means that we have a greater capacity to say yes and say no to stuff, because this is what strategy is. It is about learning how to say no. And this is a funny aside, what was so awesome is yesterday, there was an article published in the Harvard Business Review, and it's written by a friend of mine, Dory Clark, and she features me. She features me as one of the stories she tells in this Harvard Business Review article online. So I'm like, that's cool. I'm mentioned in the Harvard Business Review. That's awesome. And the title of the article is How to Say No to Tempting Possibilities. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because I'm finding that really hard right now with this team and this opportunity. But so Sylvana, why don't we pass the baton over to you? Take us through some of the layering of the strategic thinking that we did at yesterday with the team.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. I have the pleasure of sharing with you our mission, what we came up with. And basically, it does represent what we believe, who we want to be as a company. When we talk about change, in actual fact, what we're doing is we're focusing. It's what we're doing. So rather than doing everything, we're just saying, what do we do great? What do we want to do better? Anyways, and as Michael said, when we do strategy, it is about choices. I mean, we have programs, different clients, different geography, whatever. That was what the discussion was about. And what we tried to do is, I'm going to mention a couple of things, I'm going to tell you what a couple of our missions are. But what we tried to do is make the statements actionable. So they're not pie in the sky, as we sometimes read some other companies do. We wanted to, and what I'd like to do is, as we speak, because this is going to be an ongoing process. This is just a start. I'd like it if you can each ask yourselves what you can do in your positions to help us reach this goal. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we kind of move forward, because this is the future part. So the first question we wanted to answer is, what are our broad or winning aspirations, basically our concrete goals? Like, what is that? And we came up with two. As we said, we wanted to focus. One is external. And external to Box of Crayons is based. Sorry.
No, you're doing good.
Okay. One is external to Box of Crayons. So what that is we want to be the best known champion for coaching as a force for leadership development and culture change. We felt that's one of our missions for Box of Crayons. Second to that is internally, we want to strive to be the best place to work. We thought if we put those two together, it would be a great start to building this future company that we were able to do great as a small company, but what we really want to do is make it great as a bigger company.
Yeah.
With that small company feel. So that's really what we're striving to be.
And Sylvana, if I can jump in,
sure.
Just to say what you see in that two-part mission, kind of our winning aspiration, is kind of one piece around strategy and one piece around culture, because they need to work together. Great companies have a really clear strategy and a really strong culture, and we're committed to both, not just playing to win as leaders and champions for coaching, but also building one of the best places to work so that the people here feed the work that we do and feel nourished and loved and engaged in the way that we want them to be.
So now moving on from that, if we say, okay, those are our two overarching missions, right? The next question that we asked ourselves is, but we wanted to be specific about who we are and what we wanted to aspire to. And so we also have to be very specific. And as I said, who do we play? Where do we play? And where do we not play? So those are, again, decisions. There were two. I'm going to give you a little background about before I tell you what we decided. Is we when we looked at the clients, and Shannon mentioned this, is that basically we need to manage our resources so it's not wasted. And there are companies out there who will hire us for a one-off, tick the box, not really engaged. And I mean, if you think about the first mission, if we want to really be a champion for coaching, is that really going to happen on a one-off? So that's something that we asked ourselves, is that the type of client we want? And the second part of that is we have a suite of programs. So when we look at these programs, we sell everything, and we really don't focus or push or sell or market anyone specifically. We just figure whatever the client wants. So if we're going to tailor the client, we have to, or focus on a certain client, we have to focus on the program too, which leads us to the three areas that we're going to concentrate on. First one is the product, and we've decided that the training is going to be based on the coaching habit IP. That doesn't mean we don't sell anything else, but what it means is we're going to concentrate our resources on promoting the coaching habit and whatever suite of families that may end up being in the future. So it's not just the book or whatever, the program right now, it's whatever that happens to be. The second part of that is our customers. So then we had to say, so we sell all around the world, we all know that, and we decided we're going to focus on the North American-centered organizations, and specifically the Fortune 100 and 500 companies. Now, that leads to our third part, which is geography. We may be selling to the top 100 or 500 companies, but these are companies that live and work globally. So we want to be able to deliver our programs globally. And these are the companies, if we focus on them, will allow us to get there.
Perfect.
So I know there's a lot of words, but I think in a nutshell, that's pretty much what we've gotten to so far as the mission is concerned. So
yeah, so there are immediately implications that I'm sure you can figure out. Like, for instance, we're not going to be setting up a sales team based in Europe, because we've got a sales team based in North America, and their focus is going to be creating the sales there, which means the focus of our marketing is going to be in North America around that. But we know, because we're seeing this with Salesforce and with Ford and with Cargill and with these global companies, for us to play at a Fortune 100 level, we have to have the capacity to deliver internationally. So that's going to have implications about what we think about in terms of building our program leader base and other things that we think about doing with our programs as well. And we'll talk a bit about what we're going to set out as our 3 key goals. But I want to share one other piece around the strategy, because, and if you're wondering where this comes from Roger Martin's book called Playing to Win, where he goes, there are 5 key strategic questions that you need to answer. And I actually talk about them a little bit in the Coaching Habit book. So it's nice that we kind of practice what we preach a little bit. So the first question was, what's our winning aspiration, which you heard about being a champion for coaching and also building a great organization. Second piece is, like, if that's your winning aspiration, where do you play and where do you not play? And that's what Sylvana laid out in terms of a product, which is our products will be based around coaching and the coaching habit, the client, Fortune 100, Fortune 500, and the geography, we sell in North America, we deliver globally. Then you got to ask, so how will you win? I mean, how will you win? That's strategy is about actually saying we're going to win this game. You know, we don't worry a whole lot about who our competition is, but making a statement, we are the best known champion for coaching, means that we beat other people who play in this field around being known. So in terms of how we're going to win, there are 5 things that we focus on that when you combine them, kind of build a moat around us, kind of give us a strategic difference, hopefully create, as they say, blue ocean strategy between us and our competitors. So here are the 5 things. The first one is, and this kind of builds on what Sylvana was saying, both claiming and sticking with the coaching and organizations as a niche. So we will be continuing to deliver programs that are based around practical coaching skills and coaching that drives leadership development and culture change. We're not going to be creating kind of spin-off leadership programs that but don't really have to do with coaching. The second thing that we will need to win is to have a comprehensive offer. And by a comprehensive offer, I mean an ability to touch people up and down an organization, from the front line to the top of the house, and also to touch them in the places in the world that they are, so globally as well. So an offer that is able to come in at different levels in organizations and be delivered globally. Third thing we need is a proof of impact. Like, we need to be able to show that when we say that coaching is the essential leadership behavior and we help drive leadership change and behavior change, we need to be able to prove that. Because honestly, none of our competitors can prove that. Everybody struggles with that. And we are committed to figure out how do we make proof of the impact that we have through behavior change and therefore through culture change. The fourth thing we need to be able to win is the ability to sell to Fortune 100 companies, to manage the complex sales and do that with confidence and competence. And we're pretty good at that. I mean, I was extremely proud of the way sales and ops and finance and contracts work together to sell to Microsoft. Because I don't know if I said this in the update that I sent on Monday, Microsoft are a nightmare to negotiate with and sell to. They are really hard. I mean, they just, like, allegedly all Fortune 100 companies are tricky because they've got all these people, coming in, and they've got a team of lawyers and a team of procurement people. But Microsoft, have not one of the best reputations because they're bastards in terms of their negotiating strategy, which is fair enough. They're like trying to get the best deal for their side. But for us to step up and manage that and hold our nerve and negotiate and get a good deal out of that, that is awesome. So that speaks to us kind of stepping up to that fourth competency we need to win. And the fifth thing we need so that we are able to win is to have a calm, awesome, and values-based place to work. That's what we need Box of Crayons to be. Values-driven, which we are awesome in the sense that we get a chance to do as much great work as we can. And I read a book recently, so I've got a new word in my vocabulary. It's calm, C-A-L-M. So we're not all running around like headless chickens as well, that we get to do our work in a way that feels balanced. So those are the key things that we're building. Lots of it's there. There's still work to be done, of course, to allow us to have the skills in-house that will allow us to win in the way that we want to win, in the places that we want to win. Now I'm throwing the ball to Yasamine and go, so Yasamine, take us home and talk to us about if that's our strategy, how does that translate to a plan in terms of what are we doing over the next 15 months to actually be able to deliver against some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a lot that's been shared, and one can imagine that there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle to put together in order to action against all of that. And I think we all know that there's a lot of work to be done. And one of the things that we worked at yesterday was to identify what are the top 3 goals, the top 3 priorities that we need to focus on in the next coming year in order to really move forward to achieving against that. This has sort of been touched on already, but the number one thing that we found that we need to focus on and to put forth into our offering is an online platform, an online learning service, and that we can that will allow us to have broader reach across organizations and more people, which also speaks to our vision of wanting to help every manager become more coach-like. So when Michael talks about having a comprehensive offering, that's about building that out. And one of those pieces is us looking to have an online tool to be able to service as many people as possible broadly.
Yasamine, to jump in around that. Yeah. So Chloe and I are currently leading that work right now. We have dates set up with filming companies. We're talking to instructional designers to help build it out. We're signing contracts with the Intrepid platform that's going to host it for us. We're holding mid-February, as the date to have a beta version of this digital learning piece. So we've got a plan and a timeline against that. It may take longer than that. It may not take longer because technology always takes a bit longer than you think. But that's the date we're currently holding around that. So that feels pretty tangible, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. The second one that feels really big, and that's shown up for us over the course of this past year, Shannon has touched on this as well, as is Sylvana, is around global delivery. What does that look like? And primarily a focus around that will be translation of our programs, and we'll focus on the coaching habit. What we need to do is to look to identify what are those key languages that we want to go out to market with. That will come from what clients we have currently at our door, and as well as what we think will be worthwhile for us long term as we want to move out to supporting more clients. That, of course, also has implications, as I think Michael touched on earlier, around the ability to deliver globally on the ground. So with program leaders that can speak in those languages and actually be able to execute in those cities and countries.
Yeah. Yasamine, before you go on with that, one of the, this will sound like the bleedingly obvious to everybody as soon as I say it, but one of the things that we said explicitly amongst us as a team yesterday is the plan means nothing unless we staff up behind it, unless we provide the resources and the people to actually do this. Because it's one thing to say, oh, translation. It's another thing to say, so how does that happen? So, Yasamine, what's our commitment in terms of staffing up around the translation piece?
Yeah, absolutely. That was my next point. So one of the things we're going to be looking to do is to actually bring on a full-time translation project manager who will lead this project and coordinating that with external vendors around translation, working with internal team members, and of course, partners such as like Robert with the design of the materials and our web people. And of course, Michael obviously playing a key role around that and making sure we have the most current version of the program, so that we're working with that to bring out any tweaks or things like that. So we want to have the best version of that to move forward with. So that'll be a key project for this coming year under the operations team to be able to execute and deliver against that. And then I guess for those who know as well, of course, when we think about a program and delivering that, it's not just the materials, but it expands to training the program leaders and that kind of stuff as well. And the third one that we sort of landed on was infrastructure and processes and systems. This one is, I think, tightly connected to the scaling of the business, as well as sort of how we show up as being a best place to work and how we all work together. It's also proving to be the most amorphous of them. So the hardest one for us to get clarity around and what the shape that this will look and take. One of the things I'll be looking to do is to go to you guys to get feedback from you and sort of what do you think is either broken or not working as well as it could be. What are priorities that you're seeing? What are any ideas, suggestions, solutions you might have? We're very much a group of people who work together in collaboration and want very much to leverage the knowledge that is here in this room, right? And so how can we work together to move that forward? The ability for us to gain consistency, clarity, efficiency, effectiveness around all this kind of stuff. Also repeatableness around this from a scalability perspective is key. And it's important for us of how we show up together, how we're going to be able to work together really well as with clients. And so building out that infrastructure, we've had a lot of growth in the last year. We've been building stuff as we can, but there feels like we're at this next level now that requires attention to that and how we're going to move forward so that we can, get past that $5 million mark and hit to a bigger number is where we want to go.
Yeah, I mean, to be blunt about it, if we don't figure out the processes that support the scaling, we don't really get past $5 million because you need structure at a certain point to get beyond where we are at the moment. And quite frankly, the reason we're doing so well at the moment is because of how many people are working really hard to do manually what could be supported in whole or in part by structure and process. So this not only will allow us to scale, but I hope it will help us make it a calmer place to work because the infrastructure will hold some of the weight of the work that needs to be done rather than it resting on actual individual shoulders, which is what it does for some of us in some of the places at the moment. Brilliant, Yasamine. Comments, questions, thoughts? I mean, there's been a lot coming at you there, but that's a really fast way for you to understand what we think who we're trying to be as a company and what we think the next 15 months or so will look like in terms of what we're working on to change and evolve and to grow. Does anything come up? Any questions that people want to ask? You can certainly put it into the chat box if you'd like, or you can just unmute and ask me directly.
Yeah, can I say something?
Yeah, of course. Go for it, Billy.
I'm the host, so I actually can whenever I want to. I think you just mentioned this, and I'm sure you're doing this anyway, but I think a lot of us probably get excited about program design as well, and you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, but just happy to throw in even just a review stuff. Like, it's like, hey, this is what we're thinking. What do you think? And obviously that opens up maybe more dialogue than you want, but happy to do that whenever, because that's fun too.
You know, that's super helpful to hear, Billy. So there's implications around all this sort of stuff. So we've said we're not going to do a blow up and a redesign of the programs, because I was thinking about that at one stage, you know, taking the coaching habit and coaching for great work, which don't quite work as a sequence. And so the sales team have always kind of struggled to make a really persuasive case about, you start here, then you go there. And I could see us going, okay, 3 half-day programs, they work as a kind of a sequence that creates some greater commitment to behavior change, that actually allows the sales team to go, we're selling you a $25,000 package rather than a $10,000 package. So there are a number of good reasons for that. But part of what, if strategy is saying no to the thing you kind of want to say yes to, yesterday was us saying no to that as an immediate action. And it means that we need to look at habit and coaching for great work as they stand at the moment and go, fundamentally, these won't change, but knowing that we're about to invest in translating these into 4, 5 different languages, we need to nail the best possible version of these programs before we start the translation process. So I'm not reinventing any of these programs, but for instance, a consistent piece of feedback we get from people about the coaching habit is it's a little bit too long on the drama triangle, and I don't always understand why we're even doing the drama triangle. And could we get a little bit more practice in? So one of the things that I need to be looking at before we start the translation piece is, what could we do around the coaching habit just to make it the 29 version going, this is it, this is as good as we can actually get it and make it. So reaching out to all of you as program leaders going, so what are your thoughts? What could we do differently? What would you change? What would you tweak? Could be really helpful in terms of a fine tuning of that, Billy. So it's a great question, or a great kind of request. What else, if anything?
Hi, Cheryl with a comment. I'm delighted to hear that the third priority is working on the infrastructure, because I have so much admiration for you guys, and I can't believe, like, it's so manual and email based. I can't believe that there has never been an error. You know, you guys are phenomenal how you make it work. And as we scale up and get bigger, the likelihood that, you know, I show up and there's no books or something, you know, would increase. And so I just can't believe you have 100% accuracy rate. And I'm also glad that you're going to explore infrastructure. And I'll definitely, you know, share ideas from a user, what I would love to make it easier on my end too. But I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, perfect. It boils down to Rick, who's not with us today because he had something else come up, basically worrying so much that the gods will not allow a mistake to happen, because Rick's got pumping out kind of concern and worriedness into the universe. But brilliant. Thanks for the acknowledgement, Cheryl. That's really nice. The program ops team are extraordinary. I mean, it's ridiculous that we've never really had any significant failure at all with the program ops when you consider how complex it is. If you could see out through my door at the moment, and you'd see all the boxes lined up for all the programs that are coming, and there's about 35 boxes on the ground just waiting to be filled and shipped and looked after. And so you got Madeline and Rick and Joey and Chris really doing a fantastic job with all of that. So brilliant. Good. Any other questions or comments or thoughts? Yeah, Jen.
I have one. This might be my sales hat after 20 years coming on, but I was just wondering if you were to talk to some of those clients, so TELUS or Loblaw or Ford or Cargill, and ask them what's more important. Is it the MOOC coming on, or is it for the global delivery? What do you think they would say?
Shannon, do you want to take that as somebody who actually talks to people? I could make something up, and I'm not actually talking to anybody.
Yeah. What's more important, the MOOC or global delivery?
Yeah, I was curious. What's a higher priority? Because obviously they're both important. What do you think would be a higher priority?
Yeah, it kind of depends on, so it feels organization specific, and depends on how they do their training. Peter, you're nodding. You can hop in here anytime you like. Ford and Cargill.
And can I just jump in that MOOC is massive open online course?
Yes.
If people aren't familiar with that term.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we're using it as shorthand for digital learning. So a platform where people go through and follow videos and downloads and the like. So no actual significant online facilitation or the like.
Yeah, it seems like Microsoft is like obsessed with scaling and obsessed with everybody being on the same page as quickly as possible, which is something that a MOOC can achieve. If you look at TELUS, on the other hand, so let's imagine TELUS, that was a global delivery instead of us doing it here in Canada. Just the time it takes to take that amount of people through a live program means that this person over here went through this in September, and this person goes through it over here in the following November.
Yeah.
So there's a huge lag if you're thinking about culture shift and everyone doing things at the same time and speaking the same language. So there are drawbacks to that kind of live delivery when you want all those people to do it at the same time. So I found it myself to be, it's an organizational preference around how they like to do training, and it's sometimes vertical specific too. So like with Cargill, because that's the sales organization, and Microsoft, we're working with sales as well. There seems to be a preference for the sort of fast, self-directed sales team. They're on the go, they're traveling around, it's hard to get everybody together in the room. So I think it's hard for me to, I think it's a difficult question to think about how would they prioritize, because it's not an urgency of one over the other. It's a preference in how they deliver to that particular end user, I think. And there's a difference in what they're trying to achieve as well. Peter, would you add anything else to that from your conversations with Ford and Cargill and others?
Not really. I think it really depends on the client and what they already have as existing infrastructure and what they might not have. Cargill, for example, already is on a journey with Intrepid as their learning platform to really create a digital learning pathway for all of their sales managers and eventually their individual sales contributors. So they already have that built out, and they see our MOOC as part of that coaching solution. So we fit in well there, and that's very unique to, Cargill. And we're fortunate that they're using Intrepid, which is the same platform that we're building our MOOC on. Ford is interesting because they're a global company, and just to be able to have the opportunity to work with them, they ask you straight up, we need German, we need Latin American Spanish, we need Chinese, simple. It's just the price of admission to even have a conversation with them. So the fact that they like our programs enough that they can still live in a bit of ambiguity, to the point now that we are getting more concrete on languages and how we deliver that is great. But to them, it's a prerequisite. It's part of how they scale things and know that we can scale along with them.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you for.
Yeah, good question, Jen. Any other things bubbling up for people? So lovely. This is an ongoing conversation. One of the things that can happen with a virtual company is communication feels a bit one way. It's like, here we go, here's Michael or here's the SLT kind of broadcasting out to folks. And we do appreciate dialogue. So every monthly update I send out, I'm looking for feedback or comments or engagement or questions. In comments like this, if you've got stuff coming up. And for all of us, there's a way of talking to your manager or your peers or on your team, or if you're a program leader, talking to Dan as head of PL Love. All of that is possible. We love the conversation. So please don't be reticent. We really appreciate hearing from you about what's going on for you. Before we go, a couple of really key acknowledgements. Happy birthday to Chris. Woohoo, Chris, representing the West Coast. Fantastic. You're not hearing it, Chris, but there's wild applause from everybody here, so that's outstanding. Happy first day at Box of Crayons to Angela. So thank you for joining us. So Angela is coming on as our contracts manager, working with the Sylvana and Mare in the contracts and finance team. So that's awesome. You would have read about her in the update. And then there's a few people I think who are on here for the first time. There's Mina, who is dialing in from Germany. So it's like, I don't know, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. So Mina, thank you for joining us. Mina we worked with at USAA, and his wife moved to Germany as part of a posting. So he's now out of USAA, and he's like, okay, I can rep Box of Crayons here. So that's fantastic. So brilliant, Mina. It's lovely to have you here with us. Jonathan, a shout out to you as the other person coming in as a kind of late evening phone call. And I think we've got Maggie, Michelle, Brad, Dan, Judy, Blair, and Jen, who are all joining us for the first town hall with us as well. So thank you, all of you, for finding the time and becoming part of the Box of Crayons team as well, because we love having you here with us. Shannon, Sylvana, Yasmin, fellow leaders here, any final comments from you, or should we, any comments, final comments? Nothing from Sylvana. Yasmin's here with a cold, so she's like pretending to be healthy there, but really just needs to go to bed and recover. Shannon, anything from you as a final comment?
Not really, except to say that I feel like I was excited when we left the meeting in May, feeling like it was like terrifying because you're at the beginning of a new thing. But that's also kind of my most excited place to be before I have to deal with all the details of that. So I was excited, but also calm. And now I have a different kind of excitement and calm around sort of digging our heels in around, this is the program, we're going to make it a little bit better. And just, I know, like for Peter and I, and for Chloe and Jenna too, at the very front line, just like knowing what's in our bag in a really clear way is really, really useful from a sales perspective. So I'm just happy about the clarity and the decisions that we've made.
Perfect. Everybody, thank you. Billy, you can unpress the record button. It's lovely to see you all here. You'll hear from us, of course, on a monthly basis, but the next town hall, January next year. So see you there, if not before. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.